Good morning, everyone. We have a couple of Psych Ds coming on to the show this morning, showing you guys the neurological testing for kids and adults. We're going to get testing results, kind of learn about this industry and what it's really doing for people, and our hopes going into the future. But let's rock it. Let's learn some stuff and enjoy the morning show. Cheers, folks. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Talk Care Morning Show, where we go over tips, tricks, ideas, and exercises that'll make you the absolute best person you can be, not only for yourself, but for the people you love and care about most. Friends, welcome. I would like to bring on to the show Desiree and Chelsea. Thanks for coming on to the show, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Well, if you don't mind kind of sharing with me what you guys got going on and what you're working on, and a little bit about your journey to kind of making the impact you are today.
Sure. So we do neuropsych testing. I guess in simpler terms, we're testing for things like autism, ADHD, learning difficulties, dementia. So we're trying to get a really nice snapshot of what's going on in individuals' day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
So we both kind of like figuring things out. So we kind of both happened upon neuropsych testing from a little bit different approaches, but that's kind of the underlying goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so maybe we can start with you, Desiree, on your background. What got you into this, and how did you even meet Chelsea? It's kind of cool that you guys were able to make a pair and get something rocking and rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always tell people I was one of those weird people who knew what they wanted to do from the time that they were young.
Cool.
I was always really interested in kind of figuring out why people do the things that they do. And going into the field of clinical psychology seemed like an obvious choice. And then figuring out kind of something more specialized within that, I found psychological assessment and then neuropsychological assessment, which really, the way I think about it is kind of getting a good look at like the underlying things, what's going on behind the curtain, so we can help people figure out where their pain points are coming from.
Could you break down a couple of those terms for me, like neuropsychology and kind of like your field within it and kind of what that really means?
Yeah. So I think neuropsychology that's a fancy way to say like we're looking at cognitive functioning, we're looking at the thinking skills. So we're looking at things like how well can somebody focus, being able to remember things, being able to plan and organize, being able to use your visual spatial skills, kind of remember where we're going, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the psychology side of things is more of like feelings, emotions, how we see ourselves, how we see the world.
Yeah. That's so you've wanted to do this for a long time and now you're in it. Do you like it as much as you thought you would?
Most days, yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah. I think we can all appreciate that. It's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. What's like some activities that you guys have to do that people don't really think about, like in the background?
I think like when we're talking to clients, they definitely understand that the face-to-face time. So we're doing the testing with them. We're talking to them through like finding out what's going on and the results. But the report writing on the back end, we spend hours going over the data, scoring the tests, really thinking through why we're diagnosing and what's going on in their life. And that's always kind of a surprise when we're talking about like how many hours actually go into the process.
Yeah, insane. I couldn't imagine. So you guys have kind of talk about your team structure. I was over on your guys' website and saw that you guys have like a team. Can you kind of explain how you even built a team and kind of the purpose it serves? I mean, you just talked about you guys got a lot of work to do, so getting some help makes sense.
Yeah, so I think when it came to having a team, so it's myself and Chelsea, and we founded the practice. We're the practice owners, but then we have 2 doctoral students who work with us as well. Developing a training program was something that was really important to both of us. We both had really great training experiences, and we both had training experiences that left us wanting a little bit more. So being able to give back and provide a quality training experience to, the next generation of people who are doing what we do was something that we both wanted. And then also they help keep us on our toes because they're questioning us all the time. They want to learn. So it's also making us self-reflect and think about why are we doing the things that we're doing, and are there better ways to do it?
And I think also they're coming in with like the most recent teachings and research. So it also keeps things fresh on that aspect as well.
No, that's great. Maybe it would be helpful to just kind of start with, who are your most typical clients, ideal clients that you guys work with kind of like on a daily basis, to paint a picture?
I think we have kind of 3 main people that we often are working with. So kind of starting at the younger end of things, we're often working with elementary, middle school kids who may be struggling in school or socially, not connecting with their peers like we would expect them to be, which is causing emotional concerns or, also impacting their schoolwork. So parents or teachers are concerned, and they'll suggest testing. And so then we're not only working with the kid, we're also working with their parents. We really love collaborating. So we're talking to the teachers and their therapists, and, anyone else that they may be working with. So that's, I think, a large portion of the population we work with. You want to talk about?
Okay, starting off with kids, do you have what about you, Desiree? Do you have kind of a preferred client? Is it at all different for you, or kind of like who you're kind of focused on and helping?
I think in addition to the kids, we see a lot of like young professionals, I would say, who things worked really well for them like throughout school, but now they're in the workforce, and like the structure it's very different in the workforce versus the structure when you're in school. And people are seeing a lot of like the stress is different, the having to input their own organizational structure is very different. So we get a lot of questions of like, I feel like I'm not performing as well as I should be, and I want to know what's going on.
Yeah. What do these tests really kind of look like? I feel like a test could be like anything from like blood or hypnosis or, so what really is entailed? Like, so someone like me, you're talking to me about work. I got out of college and I started working kind of full time. I was like, holy crap, this is kind of hard, and I feel kind of lonely. And so like someone reaching out to you, kind of what's the procedure to kind of help with that?
So the way we usually explain it to people is the testing process. It feels like puzzles and brain teasers. It's not like when you go to your primary care doc and you might get some blood drawn, or they're going to like use a stethoscope and listen to how you breathe. And it's not like a test at school where, it's timed and there's multiple choice and we're writing essays. This is all really interactive, and we're using these puzzles and brain teasers to give us a sense of, what do these certain abilities look like on the day-to-day, but we're measuring it in kind of in a different way.
Interesting. And is there a frequency to it? I feel like some days I'm half brain and I'm running through it and I don't know left from right. And then other days I got my wits about me. Do you see people a lot, or do you kind of based off of what they're telling you and then the result? Like, how would you kind of measure that up, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. So for adults, we typically only see them for like one testing day. Certainly there may be times where, we find out that they didn't sleep well the night before and things aren't going great, and we may cut testing short that day and have them come in a separate day. But overall, statistically, we find that the test data we're getting doesn't vary greatly depending on a specific day. So we definitely want people to come in at their best, but we're not always functioning at our best, and that's okay.
Do you guys have like a limit on how many people you can help at like one time? Do you guys work with insurance a lot, or is it kind of private and you, like someone like me would just reach out to you directly? How do you find the people to be helping and working with?
So I'd say most of the people that we see, some people just find us on Google because somebody told them, oh, you should get a neuropsych evaluation. And they Google neuropsych in my area. But I think most of our referrals come from like mental health therapists who we've connected with. And then like psychiatrists who prescribe medication. That's another common way that people find their way to our office.
Okay.
But to answer the second part of that question, we are out of network with insurance. So anybody can come to us. They don't need a referral. That sometimes that's a big plus, is that we don't have to diagnose something specifically. So if you're just looking to see like how your brain works and what's going well, we can do that too.
Yeah. No, I wanted to ask you from kind of like the kids side of the equation. Is it like, are there signs that parents should be looking out for, or things that they can do to try and help, or like be support, like they just contact a facility like yours right away, or like, how do you kind of handle that as a parent? I guess advice, I'm sure you guys deal with a lot of it.
I'd say it can go a couple of different ways in terms of parents finding their way to us. Sometimes we are a first line of defense where parents are thinking either, they're noticing, hey, I think my child may not be where their peers are in, any number of areas, whether it's social, whether it's academic. Or, the school has given some feedback that there's concerns. So sometimes we're the first line of defense to figure out what's going on. Sometimes they find their way to us because they went and talked to their pediatrician and they said, hey, we're noticing some things that we just want to get to the bottom of. But usually it's either the parents have concerns or somebody else has raised concerns to the parents.
Okay. Are there common misconceptions about what you guys do? Kind of maybe to clarify. So you have some people initially reaching out and they're like, oh, I thought you did this. But so what are some common misconceptions you guys deal with on a frequent basis?
I think the biggest one for us is people will call asking for like an ADHD screener, which certainly there are like pediatricians' offices where you can go in and like answer some questions, and the pediatrician can technically diagnose ADHD. But we feel very strongly about getting a full picture of what's going on because many things can look like ADHD symptoms. So I think that screening aspect of things is a really big misconception that we see.
And I think another big one a couple other ones that we see is people think we prescribe medication. So they're looking for, I'm looking for a new doctor to prescribe me medication because, my old one, no longer takes my insurance or, what have you. So we don't prescribe medication. And then the other misconception is we're not neurologists. So we're not doing things like MRIs or EEGs. We're not doing like brain imaging. And sometimes that can be kind of confusing for people because, we have neuropsychology and neurology and they sound very similar. And there is a little similarities, but
definitely can work with them.
Yeah.
We do not do their job.
We're good compliments, but we're not the same.
Where do you guys kind of see this going into the future? Do you is there tools, technology, or the size of the company, or like what are some stuff going forward in the future do you guys see happening and going on?
I think from like a testing perspective, we definitely see a growing trend in I guess, working with technology more. So a lot of our testing is now done on iPads. And so
okay.
it really is, it helps us speed up the process and reduces like potential error, which has been nice. But it also like makes clients feel a little more comfortable. They know what an iPad is and they can work with that. It's still like face-to-face, but it kind of,
yeah, we have 2 iPads, one for them and one for us. So we're still interacting, but it takes away a lot of or not a lot. It reduces the human error, which is nice. And I think we're definitely seeing a trend more towards really leaning into using technology.
Oh, that's incredible.
mm-hmm.
Is this something that then the mission would be to kind of get this into any schools, like you give it to schools, or do you guys have to be a part of like the test induction, or like is there a way to just give it out to like a bigger mass, if that makes sense?
So I think we still need to be involved in the process. There for several reasons. Like the technology helps a lot, but every client's different. So sometimes we're also looking at what we call behavioral observations, or like how somebody's reacting while they're taking the various tests, which our training allows us to interpret that and kind of give ideas for how that might be interfering or what this might look like for their day-to-day, or somebody who's not trained to what's the word I want?
Trained to watch out for those
trained
things.
to watch out for those things. Some of those things could go unnoticed. And then also just the interpretation side of things. I think that's really where we come in, is figuring out, anybody can score it and get a number, but being able to really put it together to figure out what the bigger picture is something that I think we'll always need to be a part of that.
Okay. Yeah. Is this a common practice? I mean, you guys are out of Evanston, Illinois. Are you guys just in that area, or do you help people all over? Or like how popular and important is this kind of like across the country?
So for our office, like our testing is still, the testing day has to be done in person. We still have a lot of like hands-on activities that you have to do that we can't do across the internet. So we are definitely just Evanston area. We do have people coming from all over the state, but we are here. I would say across the country though, like the varying trends, and you can get an online evaluation. And I think it's a need across the country. So yeah.
So it's like you're saying, it can be done online across the country, just a dip in quality without having all of your expertise able there to interpret it.
Well, I think part of our concern, because we definitely have looked into that, but someone's in their home and the dog barks and we're trying to measure how well you're able to pay attention to things, you're now distracted. So like little things like that we can't control for if it's done virtually. So we like to keep it in the office so we can control for those variables.
And also like internet quality, internet speed, those can vary. And I think with the preference for us is obviously we like to meet people in person and kind of have that face-to-face, because you get a different feel for somebody and kind of what's going on for them. Where virtual evaluations that they definitely have their place. Some people, they just don't live in an area where they have access to a provider. But thankfully, lucky for us where we are in the Chicagoland area, there are so many providers. So for us, it seemed silly to not see people in person.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I think there's something really special that to be in person. It's like it kind of builds that layer of trust to actually conduct the test properly and get good data.
Definitely.
What are some trends that you're seeing in the industry moving forward? are some trends that you guys like been studying about or learning about kind of moving forward into the future?
Definitely think it hasn't quite hit us specifically, but trying to find either brain imaging or like blood tests that can diagnose a lot of the things that we're currently diagnosing. So like, I guess moving away from like having to come in for half a day and testing, but being able to just get blood drawn and have your answers.
Oh yeah.
So I think that where a lot of the research is going, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I don't know when we will realistically see that. I think that it feels very far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that people have been talking about.
Yeah. Definitely like a lot of the research we're seeing. Yeah.
Trying to find those biological markers of things.
What are your guys' biggest challenges going on right now? Kind of like in business and kind of making it flow. Any big pains in the butt?
Networking. Yeah, I think just getting out and meeting people and keeping that consistent.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, like the clinical side of things that we do, we're pretty comfortable in. But the running a business side of things, there's been a learning curve there.
We're doing the right things, talking to people. We're not working now. It's what's some advice that you'd have for yourself to kind of improve upon that?
I really think that recognizing that it's the long game, and we frequently have that conversation. You just got to stick with it, and we notice like, oh, we met that person a year ago, and they just sent us someone. It just takes time. Yeah.
Well, clearly we value mental health being in the field that we're in. But I think we don't just value it in our clients. We're very big on, I think for both of us, work-life balance and how that relates to mental health. So things that like we do, we make sure we set very clear boundaries with the workday. Also going into business with a partner was a strategic move for both of our for mental health and self-care, is having somebody else to kind of pick up the load when you're just not feeling on your A game. So kind of communicating and with the ebbs and flows, because, sometimes we're both on our A game, which is great. But sometimes it's nice to have somebody to pick up the extra when you're not feeling up to it.
Yeah.
I think in terms of trends that we're seeing in mental health, I think it's been great with social media. People are talking about mental health, and there's a lot more openness to things. So we have people calling and saying, I think I have ADHD. No one's ever mentioned this before, but I'm really struggling. And I've been struggling for years. But my parents would never get me tested, what a great time that we were able to step into these people's lives and help them and find answers where, even 2 or 3 years ago, that wasn't something we were talking about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Just the vulnerability has really, really skyrocketed. And yeah, really do appreciate that. So work-life balance, what's you guys, are you just kind of open all the time? Do you guys how does your guys' partnership kind of work with work hours? Are you only working one at a time, or what's that look like?
So we've started taking longer weekends, but like staggering it, because having time at home and family is important. We also, part of our core values was that balance. So we do have the privilege, I guess, of being able to take additional vacation time. So quarterly, we each take a week off. That's very important. And there was one quarter that one of us forgot to put something on the calendar, and we're like, hey, now.
Making sure we spread those weeks throughout the year instead of I want to bank up my time for the end of the year, because, burnout's real and it happens, and it's easy to say, it'll be fine. I'll just take my vacation later. So I think also holding each other accountable for that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious how you guys are, does this work? Is it easy to kind of leave it at work? I've noticed sometimes in the life coaching space, sometimes it's hard to leave work at work and kind of going off and doing, trying to go home to your family and take a break. Do you guys ever struggle with that?
I think at the beginning we struggled a little bit, just like as friends, not getting together for dinner and starting to talk about work. So we've been a lot more intentional about like calling each other out if we start doing that.
Trying to create space, work-free spaces was something that took a little bit between the two of us, because we were friends before we started the business as well. But I think in terms of like bringing it home to our families, because our training program was so long, we had a lot of time and experiences to work through those boundaries, and getting comfortable with saying it's okay to turn myself off to unplug from the job. It'll, and especially given the structure around testing and what we do, the report will still be there tomorrow and it's okay. Or the paperwork will still be there tomorrow and it's okay.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I'm curious because Chelsea, you brought up how in the past, or people are just talking about or being more open online about it. Are you guys concerned at all with you can kind of get advice from anybody now, and it's very fast, and there's a lot of differing opinions and stuff. I was curious if you guys have limits on like what you can say on the internet or like how you market to people. Is there like an organization that you guys got to go through, or how that all works?
It's an interesting question. I think so. Our ethics code is through the American Psychological Association, and they encourage you to be yourself, but also recognize that not everyone may share your opinions. So just being mindful about how you put that out there. So I think it's hard. Like neither one of us are big social media users, so we're just not putting
not putting a ton out there. There are a lot of mental health professionals who do create a lot of content and have very active platforms, though. So I think something we balance when we're talking to our clients about social media is there's some really great creators out there who are, putting a lot of time and effort into doing the research, doing their due diligence, and spreading helpful information. And then there's also a lot of misinformation out there. And it's hard. It can be hard to figure out, to sort through what's what.
Do you guys use social media at all?
We have an Instagram and a Facebook. They're not super active though.
Is that kind of like a not really necessary, or do you think social media will play a big role in your guys' networking and marketing in the future?
I think it will in the future. I think largely right now it's just we're new to the business, like the market, using social media as a marketing tool. We're still kind of new. We're dipping our toes in. But I think for what we do, it can be a really powerful way to reach people, especially like the kids that are kids now. They're going to grow up. They're going to be on social media. Those young adults that we see, they're on social media. So it's just a good way to connect with those populations.
Yeah. What are some good ways that we can kind of like connect or in a positive way with some of your ideal clients?
I think that like parents, they're out there everywhere. Everyone has kids. And so, just listening to someone talking about like my kids refusing to go to school or struggling making friends, like those are good connections to kind of keep an ear out for. But in terms of like connecting with like young professionals, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm almost thinking just to picture you guys going into like a daycare and saying like, hey, if you need like help with this, is that Like, is that who we should be connecting to? Like areas and organizations that deal with lots of the kids, like schools, or like who is like the right person to talk to?
I mean, we get definitely a lot of our referrals from therapists. So I think that tends to be the biggest
one. Therapists,
group.
yeah, therapists and psychiatrists. Those are hands down are the two biggest people who are referring. But I think generally speaking, behind that is people who work with kids in other capacities. So like tutors, speech therapists, occupational therapists, those sorts of like other like allied health professionals.
Yeah. This working with kind of therapists, how has that been? Do you guys have deep relationships with a lot of these therapists, or is it kind of just like passed off? Is it the same few people, or I'm curious the relationship there.
I think we have a few that we've gotten several referrals from and we work pretty closely with. And then we have some that they send us the one client and then we may not hear from them for 6 months. And then, they might send someone else. So it just kind of depends on the needs of their practice. But I think we work very hard to build those relationships. So we'll take them out for coffee or we're meeting up with them. If we can in person, it definitely helps.
Because the referral string can go both ways because we don't do therapy. So we're often, if somebody isn't established with a mental health therapist already, and that's something that could be helpful, we work really hard to try to give them a list of therapists that could be a good fit because we've met them. We know what the therapist's happy place is. We know what the client's looking for. So we can help take some of the guesswork out of finding a therapist because that can be really overwhelming for people.
Yeah. And you might have said this earlier, trying to keep up should somebody, if they have some concerns, they would go to you first or go to a therapist first, or kind of like, where does the cycle start kind of between the two?
It kind of can go both ways. Oftentimes, if someone doesn't have a therapist, we can be the first line of defense. But oftentimes someone is with a therapist and the therapist is actually the one who is saying, I'm seeing these things, maybe let's go get tested. Or, they saw something online and they're questioning it. So the therapist is like, I can't really diagnose that. Let's get you tested.
Is the industry seeing more tests or more people with issues, or like less over time?
I would say with it, like issues specifically, I'm not quite sure, but I think the demand for testing has gone up. Which I think part of that is just because more people know that it's an option versus, 5-10 years ago.
But also the pandemic really highlighted the struggles that people are having. When people weren't around others, it definitely brought out some more concerns.
Yeah, I can't help but think it's maybe not more, but just more people open to the idea of receiving help from a professional network. Right. Okay. So is there anything else that you guys want to tell us about your company before we move on into the coaching section? So is there anything else that you want to educate the folks on about what it is you guys do?
I think our big thing from a company perspective is that we're here to find the strengths for our clients. So we don't want them to walk away with like a laundry list of problems. So we really want to work with the client to figure out what's going well and highlight that so that we can help make some of the more problem areas easier. So I guess coming from that strengths-based approach and really like building on what they have going well.
Oh, that's great. All righty, folks. Well, we're moving on to get a little bit of an inside scoop on Chelsea and Desiree. We're going to shift up here and come back to the chalkboard. We're going to just start with some powerful questions for each of you guys so we can get better know you and what you guys got going on. We'll go kind of go back and forth a little bit. So we'll start with you, Chelsea. What is your number one goal for 2024? What is your number one goal for 2024?
Should really have thought about this one. Clearly, I didn't make a resolution. I don't know. I think just to stay consistent with networking and not get lax on that.
What's an action item look like? What's something that you could take action on to make that happen?
I think register for the events that I know I should be doing.
Oh, that's fun. Events. Do you like events? Or are they like a chance to get you uncomfortable? What do you like them?
Definitely there's a level of discomfort, but it reaches a large group of people. So
You know it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
May not have otherwise.
right. Yes.
What about you, Desiree? What's your number one goal for 2024?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Not going to be networking because that's yours.
They can be the same. You guys are partners. That usually makes sense to have aligned goals, but it's up to you. What's your number one goal?
Yeah, I would say kind of similar, just working on like building quality relationships with the community.
Okay.
It's a nice.
What's what do you think's one action item you can do to make that happen, to build those relationships with the community?
I think an action item is like looking. So a vague action item is like looking for a way to get involved with the community. So whether that's like joining a committee or, finding a consistent way to to be involved and stay involved with the community.
Very cool. All right. We're back to you, Chelsea. What is one thing that you love about yourself? What is one thing that you love about yourself?
I think I love that I'm a doer. I always have projects going and I want to get things done.
No, that's incredible. I mean, taking actions, I think by a landslide, the hardest part. What do you think, Desiree? What is one thing that you love about yourself?
I think that I am a very understanding person, and try to see things from, all different angles.
Well, I really appreciate you guys sharing. We're going to come back to the up here to just nail this last section before we get out of here for the day. I wanted you guys to share with us, like, what's the biggest for your daily work? Like, what's an activity that sometimes you guys you procrastinate, or it's a real pain in your butt and you want to do more of it? All right. Because I know we talked a lot about building relationships and the networking stuff. Is it something along those lines?
I definitely find myself procrastinating on registering for events, and then I'm like, oh no, it passed by. Yeah.
Well, this exercise, it's called play, people, and power. So you just think of something that's a huge pain in your butt. And then there's these three options to try and make it. Our goal is to make it more enjoyable, because the more things suck, we tend to kick the can down the road. So first option is we can make signing up for events, or we can go to events or getting involved. We can take on a playful mindset, or we can make the environment more playful. Like you say, for example, I like to, when I do sales calls, I'll put on like Harry Potter music or like Lord of the Rings, and it's like, I'm kind of on an adventure, getting stuff done. So that's play. Or there's the second option. There's people. You guys sit down in a room and you cannot leave for an hour. And you're like, we're going to talk to people and we're going to get this out there. You can get people around you. Or power. You just think of the tiniest little step forward, because anybody who does something, they gain confidence in it. So just like one step forward, you just have to do, like, say, sign up for one event today or something like that. So I kind of threw a lot at you. So can you think between making it more playful, using people, or power, which strategy you think would be really helpful in your situation?
I think probably making it more playful, making it more enjoyable. Yeah.
How would you do that?
I think, I don't know, the last few events I've been to, I think also like, so we used to go to events together and now we've kind of divide and conquer. So that's been an adjustment, but I think kind of just finding someone at the event that I do know, and kind of using them to springboard. So like to meeting people. So just being, I don't know, making it more enjoyable because we're building relationships and friendships. It doesn't necessarily have to, I don't need to meet the whole room.
Yeah, no, you don't. How do you kind of feel about it, Desiree?
I'd say kind of similar to that, and like shifting the focus more on like quality of interactions instead of quantity of interactions. Like if you leave having like one really good conversation, then like that's a win, versus having like 15 very like surface level conversations that like you don't remember the person's name afterwards.
Yeah. Would you say that you, I kind of had a similar situation with a networking buddy, he was my networking buddy. And when I went with this person, we went to a lot more. And then when we kind of decided to split up, divide and conquer, we didn't go. I kind of stopped going to pretty much most of them, if I'm being honest. And so would you guys, I'm curious, in your situation, would it be helpful if you guys both went together to some and then went separate to some? Because did you say that you're going to less now before you went together, or things? I wonder how you guys could go about that.
Yeah, I don't think deciding to go separately was a reason for going to less. I think largely like with the holidays and like schedule is getting a little wonky.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely led to less active like attending events. But I think what we have found in our however long it's been since we started like going to networking events, that we tend to use each other as a crutch. Which was, I think it was really helpful in the beginning when we didn't really know what we were doing and we were just starting to get comfortable. But as we've learned, the more events that we've gone to, people don't approach the duo as much as they do if you're just standing by yourself.
No, yeah, that's cool. Do you guys have like a pitch that you practice and you got locked and loaded, or you just say hello, how are you doing?
I feel like we used to have a pitch and then we stopped practicing that. So we kind of revert to like facts about what we do. So that is another goal for this year, I think, is to revamp that.
Revamping our elevator pitch.
Yeah.
If you had to give me a rough one, like right now, it's like, oh, hey, I see your name tags, Chelsea and Desiree. It's nice to meet you guys. What do you do? Like, what would you say to me?
I think my go-to elevator pitch at the moment is, I do diagnostic testing for things like ADHD, autism, and learning difficulties, kind of helping people figure out what's going on with their thinking skills and their emotions.
Yeah.
And,
no, it's great. Super straightforward. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that's I guess before we cut out of here, do you guys have any advice for our listeners, kind of for themselves, kind of getting back into the swing of things after the holidays? I know you're talking about that. I feel that very strongly, trying to just get back rock and rolling. Any advice for us as we kind of get going again into the new year, 2024?
I think just in terms of like mental health, looking at the start of the year is a good refresh point. And if you don't have a therapist, I think it's a great time to to get out there and talk to somebody. It doesn't necessarily mean you have a problem, but it's good to have a support person on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you two stick around for after the show. We'll be chit-chatting a little bit. But to the rest of you, in case you need to hear it today, I love you. You're a badass. You guys got this. Let's have an incredible, incredible day. And say goodbye, everybody. We're out of here. You guys have a good one. Till next time.